Discover the incredible proposal, how an infertile billionaire changed a homeless widow's life forever. Sarah's heart raced as she rummaged through yet another discarded box, desperate for anything to help her two small kids. Worn-out shoes scuffed against the gritty Phoenix pavement, reminding her of the tenacity she clung to every day. It had been a year since Mark's sudden death, one moment a loving husband, the next gone, leaving her and their children to face a world that didn't care. As she pulled out an old blanket, memories washed over her, but so did the relentless weight of grief, a reminder of how alone she was. With the sun blazing overhead, her determination flickered like a candle flame, battling against the winds of despair. While she sorted through the meager treasures of the street, her little ones played in the dirt, unaware of the harshness surrounding them. Every giggle felt like a small victory against the odds. But just as hope began to swell, a figure emerged from the shadows. Michael was an unlikely sight, a billionaire dressed in an immaculate suit with a carefully curated life. But there was something in his eyes, a flicker of emptiness that echoed her own. As they crossed paths, an assailant lunged at Sarah, a jagged knife glinting in the sun. Time slowed. Fear gripped her chest. But Michael sprang into action, stepping between her and the danger, swift and unexpected. The scuffle ended, Michael stood, breaths heavy, eyes wild, but he was a protector. She felt the trembling echo in her heart, the weight of his actions pierced through her despair, stirring something new inside her. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice low, reins of his own vulnerability barely masked beneath his calm demeanor. Yes," Sarah whispered, feeling warmth bloom amidst the tentacles of fear. That simple connection, two worlds colliding, was electric. They shared more than words, they glimpsed the shadows that followed them. Sarah spoke of sleepless nights spent fighting hunger and despair, while Michael shared the aching void of unfulfilled dreams. They were both damaged souls on different sides of an insurmountable divide. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Their connection deepened over the coming days, each encounter peeling away layers of pain. Yet, lurking beneath the surface was an undeniable tension. Could a partnership forged in such sorrow thrive? "I have an idea," Michael tentatively proposed one evening, the harsh Phoenix sun dipping below the horizon. "What if you and your kids came to stay with me? I can help you find a job and I could use a family around." Torn between the safety of the offer and her fierce independence, Sarah felt the world twist around her. Though his proposal was an opportunity, could she trust a man so far removed from her struggles? The question hung heavy in the air, but the promise of hope was intoxicating. Yet, just as Sarah began to envision a future where her children might thrive, life would throw them another curveball that neither could foresee, a revelation that threatened to dismantle everything they had begun to build. As they stood on the precipice of something profound, could their improbable bond withstand the raw currents of judgment and heartache? Sarah stood on Michael's doorstep, her hands trembling slightly as she knocked. The offer he had made echoed in her mind, both thrilling and frightening. She glanced back at her children, who were fidgeting in impatience, innocent and hopeful. Could she really take them into this man's world? A world where the scent of desperation never lingered in the air. When Michael opened the door, his smile was warm but tinged with uncertainty. His eyes searched hers for the answer to a question that hung between them, unspoken. Was he offering not just shelter but a chance at a new life? Or was it just a kind impulse from a man burdened with his own loneliness? "Come in," he said, stepping aside to let them enter. The apartment was pristine, paintings adorned the walls, and the air smelled faintly of lemon and something sweet. It felt like stepping into a magazine. Yet, a pang of guilt struck Sarah. This wasn't her world. The kids immediately darted out to explore, laughter bouncing off the walls. But Sarah lingered, taking it all in. Michael noticed her hesitation. "I'm not trying to replace anything," he said, his voice dropping to a softer tone. "I just want to help." His sincerity shone through, melting some of her resistance. "It's just everything feels overwhelming," she replied, her eyes fixed on the floor as if the tiles would help ground her swirling thoughts. "I don't want to bring them into a life they don't understand." He stepped closer, decreasing the physical distance between them. "Trust me, Sarah. You and your kids belong in a place where they can feel safe and loved. That's all I want." The way he said it struck a chord. Love was a currency she hadn't felt in a long time, a luxury that seemed out of reach after Mark's passing. She dared to imagine what it might be like to live here: warmth, laughter, the sound of children playing freely without the threat of danger lurking around any corner. Yet, with that dream came a wave of uncertainty. Could she really accept help from someone who lived a life so foreign to her? As if reading her thoughts, Michael added, "I know our situations are different. But maybe that's what makes us stronger together." She allowed the weight of his words to linger. Maybe this partnership was exactly what both of them needed. As she made her decision, something shifted within her. "I'll try," she finally said, her voice bold but shaky. Michael's face broke into a genuine smile. "That's all I ask." Days turned into weeks as Sarah and her children adjusted to their new life. Michael became a steady presence, offering support and laughter, gradually mending some of her broken pieces. But just as things began to settle, Sarah noticed Michael growing distant, lost in thought more often than not. What was he hiding? And why did that make her chest tight? One afternoon, she stumbled upon a letter tucked away on his desk, a letter that spoke of a fertility clinic and a past that softened the lines of his stoic face. Shocked, she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. She had to understand. Could this change everything? The question circled her mind, pooling into a single thought: this wasn't just a matter of help anymore. Secrets threatened everything they were building together. Sarah took a deep breath, knowing she had to confront him. What if this revelation pushed them too far apart? With her heart pounding, she stepped into his office. "Michael, we need to talk." Michael looked up, surprised, the light from the window casting shadows over his face. He could see the urgency in Sarah's posture, her hands clenched at her sides. Something had shifted between them, and he could feel the tension crackling like static in the air. "Sure," he replied with an edge of caution. "What's on your mind?" She stepped further into the room, closing the door behind her. It felt like sealing off the world, just the two of them in this small space, the soft hum of life beyond muted. "I found a letter," she said, her voice steadying even as anxiety fluttered in her stomach. "What's going on, Michael?" His expression turned guarded as he sat back in his chair, a muscle twitching in his jaw. "I wish you'd found something else," he said quietly. "Why didn't you tell me?" The hurt in her voice was palpable. "I thought we were building something together. But now, it feels like there's a wall between us." "I didn't think it mattered," he admitted, his gaze drifting to the window. "I've been through some things I'm still grappling with. It's not easy to share." She shook her head, frustration bubbling to the surface. "But I deserve to know. We're in this together, right? You can't just shut me out." He looked at her now, something breaking through his stoic facade. "You're right," he said, exhaling slowly. "I just didn't want to burden you with my past. I thought I could leave it behind. But you can't, can you?" She pressed gently, stepping closer. "And neither can I." Michael took a deep breath as if the weight of unspoken words lay across his shoulders. "Before I came here, I wanted children. I went through months of treatments, surgeries. It wasn't easy. And after all of that, I found out that I can't have kids. I thought maybe I could help someone else start a family." Sarah felt her heart twist in her chest. "You wanted to be a father?" "More than anything," he confessed, his voice softening. I thought if I could help someone like you, someone who deserves a chance at happiness, then maybe I'd find a way to fill that empty space in my heart. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The kindness in his eyes, the way he cherished her kids. It wasn't just pity. He saw something in her that he believed in. But could she really accept such generosity, such an enormous shift in their relationship? Michael shifted uncomfortably, sensing her inner turmoil. I didn't want this to change how you see me. I never wanted to put anything on you that you weren't ready for. But I don't want you to handle this alone, she replied, emotions swirling like autumn leaves caught in the wind. I want to help you just like you want to help me. Michael's eyes widened, the walls between them beginning to crumble. You mean that? Of course, she said, her heart racing. But we have to be honest with each other. No more secrets. He reached out, tentatively grasping her hand, grounding her in that moment. Okay. No more secrets. I'll tell you everything. As they stood there, palms together, Sarah could feel a new energy enveloping them, a fragile but powerful bond forming with each heartbeat. But the weight of their conversation loomed large, and she sensed the burden of their unknown future hovering just beyond the door. Tell me more, she urged softly. What else don't I know? Michael hesitated, the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes revealing just how intent he was on letting her in. What more could he possibly share that might shape the course of their lives? The moment hung heavy with possibility, and Sarah braced herself, knowing this conversation could change everything. Would she discover the depth of his pain and desires? Or would stepping deeper into his world force her to confront her own hidden fears? Michael, she said, her voice almost a whisper, what are you really afraid of? Michael's breath hitched at her question. It sliced through the uncertainty like a knife. He had always known he feared truth, the truth of what he couldn't have, the truth of loneliness, and the truth of being vulnerable. I'm afraid of starting something I can't finish, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm afraid of hope. Especially after everything I've been through. What if I fail you? Sarah felt a wave of compassion wash over her. It was painful to see him carry such a heavy burden, and yet she understood his fear. She had her own shadows, a past that haunted her daily, fights that left scars. Michael, we can't live like that. We can't let fear dictate our lives, she said, squeezing his hand tighter as if binding their fears together. Maybe you're right. But what if one of us gets hurt again? His eyes held a depth of sorrow, tinged with uncertainty. What if, in trying to help each other, we just make things worse? She took a step closer, their breaths mixing in the charged space between them. Life is messy, Michael. I get it. But staying in this cycle of fear keeps us both from moving forward. We need to trust that we can handle whatever comes next. He searched her eyes for certainty, finding steadiness where he expected chaos. And if I let you in, really, what does that mean for us? Sarah felt the stakes rising, the gravity of the moment pressing down like a summer storm ready to burst. It means we dive deeper, she said, her voice strong yet tender. It means we face whatever happens together. I want to share my journey, my dreams. I want to understand you. His gaze softened, glimmers of both hope and vulnerability flickering behind his walls. But what if I disappoint you? What if I'm not everything you hoped for? Then we'll work through that, she said, shaking her head. Nobody is perfect, Michael. We're all just doing the best we can. But I need you to be open with me. If I'm sharing my life with you, I need you to share yours. All of it. A moment stretched beautifully before them, heavy with emotion, rich with promise. He took a deep breath, contemplating the gravity of her words. Okay. Then let us do this together, he finally said, his resolve building. Good, she replied, a smile breaking through the tension. So let us start with the letter. What else is in there? What else don't I know? Her question hung, laden with anticipation, and he felt the pull to finally reveal his past. "There's so much more than what's in that letter," he said, a nervous edge creeping into his voice. "You have no idea." Their hands still joined, Michael leaned back in his chair, preparing to share the stories that had shaped him, the good, the bad, and the painful truths he had kept bottled up for too long. But even as he opened his mouth to speak, he realized that with each revelation, they stood at the precipice of a deeper bond, one that could tether them together in something infinitely powerful or risk tearing them apart. "Sarah," he said, forcing the words through the lump forming in his throat, "there is something I need to confess about my past, something that could change everything." She nodded, her heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. "I'm ready for it. Just, tell me everything." As the first word slipped from his lips, the air in the room seemed to shift, taking them both into uncharted territory where secrets and truths would collide, forever altering the landscape of their connection. Would they come out stronger through the storm, or would the harsh winds of the truth threaten to tear them apart? Michael's heart raced as he felt the weight of years of silence pressing down on him. He had built walls so high, he had almost forgotten what it felt like to let someone inside. But Sarah was different. She was steady, unyielding, her beauty shining through the cracks of his defenses. "Okay," he said, his voice barely audible. "Here goes." He took a moment to gather himself, the memories swirling in his mind. "When I was young, I watched my family fall apart. My father, he struggled with addiction. I didn't just lose a parent, I lost my childhood. I learned early that I couldn't depend on anyone but myself." Sarah's eyes softened, a flicker of understanding passing between them. He took a breath, the sound escaping his lips almost like a plea. "The summer before college, I thought I could escape. I went to a party, and I thought it would be just fun, just a way to forget. That's when I met her." A brief smile broke through his pain. "We were so young, so full of dreams, at least, I was. She was my first love. But when I returned from college, everything changed." Her gaze locked onto his, urging him to go on. He could feel the tension tightening, yet Sarah's presence held him steady. She had moved on, found someone else. "It tore me apart." He paused, and Sarah squeezed his hand again, a grounding force. "That pain pushed me deeper into myself. I thought if I could achieve things, be successful, maybe I could mask the hurt. But success never filled that void." A silence stretched, filled only with the weight of his story. He felt himself slipping, thoughts spilling out before he could stop. "I built this wall, Sarah. The more I achieved, the thicker the wall became. It was supposed to protect me, but it did the opposite. It isolated me. I thought if I never loved again, I'd never get hurt again." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "Michael, I had my own battles. The scars run deep in me too." She leaned in, her voice soft yet assertive. "But look at us now. We are here, and we're still trying, right?" Her words wrapped around him like a warm blanket, and he breathed in slowly, allowing the acceptance to wash over him. "But what if I fail again? What if I can't break these patterns?" Her response was instant. "Then we'll face it together. We'll learn from it, grow from it. Failure isn't the end, it's just part of life. I need you to believe that, to believe in us." As she spoke, something within him began to shift. The cracked foundations of his heart felt the first signs of repair. "I want to believe," he murmured, vulnerability seeping through each word. "Then let's start small," she suggested. "What's the first step? How can we begin to break down that wall? How can we start building something real?" Michael's chest tightened. It was simple yet monumental. "Maybe I could share more. Share my dreams, my ideas, my fears. I've hidden those for so long." The corners of Sarah's lips tugged upward, encouraging him. "That's it. You're taking the first step. Just like you opened up here. You're already stronger than you think. As emotions surged around them, he realized he hadn't just opened up about his past. He was beginning to reshape his future with her by his side. A world without boundaries began to unfold. What if this leads to even more fear? He asked, a last-ditch worry clawing at him. Remember, Michael, she said firmly, yet softly, we elude fear when we share the same heart. He nodded slowly, her words sinking deeper into his soul. Could he really do this? Could he risk everything again? Let us take this journey step by step, she said, a glimmer of hope shimmering in her eyes. And just as the heaviness of the past began to lift, another shadow loomed over them, a text vibrating on Michael's phone. He glanced at the screen, his heart racing again. It was a name he hadn't thought about in years. One that could unravel everything he had just started to rebuild. Who is it? Sarah asked, sensing his change. It's someone from my past, he replied, the tension creeping back in. Michael, what are you going to do? He hesitated, the crossroads before him spinning. With possibilities. Would he answer, risking all they had built, or would he leave the past behind once and for all? Michael's fingers hovered over the phone, the weight of a single decision pressing heavily on his chest. The name on the screen felt like a ghost from a forgotten time, its presence both familiar and deeply unsettling. Just when he thought he might break free, the past came knocking. Michael? Sarah's voice cut through the turmoil. It was calm but insistent. Talk to me. Who is it? He swallowed hard, forcing himself to look her in the eyes. They were filled with concern, and at that moment, he realized how much he had to lose. It's Emily, he said, the name barely escaping his lips. It felt like a confession. A small gasp escaped Sarah, but she quickly masked it with a determined look. Emily from college? Yeah. Michael let out a shaky breath. She was my first love, the one who moved on without me. I haven't heard from her in years. He stared back at the screen, conflicted. Responding could tear open old wounds, yet ignoring her felt like closing a door on something he thought he had finally laid to rest. Time had changed him, surely it had changed her too. It's a connection to your past, Sarah said, her eyes never leaving his. But you've changed, Michael. You're not that same person anymore. You've grown. You're building something new here with me. He could feel her reassuring hand on his, grounding him once again. I don't want to hurt you, Sarah. I don't want to open up an old wound. What if she wants something? What if she wants to reconnect? Then you handle it. You have a choice now, she replied, voice steady. You get to decide how your past fits into your present. I'm right here. The thought of Emily reaching out felt chaotic, but it also ignited a spark of curiosity in him. What did she want after all this time? Did she carry the same regrets, the same what-ifs as he did? What if I answer, and it brings everything crashing down? He whispered, terror bleeding into his voice. Then we'll face it, she said firmly. You're not alone in this. Together, we tackle whatever comes. Taking a deep breath, Michael felt an undeniable surge of bravery fueled by her support. Maybe the time had come to confront his past rather than run from it. Perhaps answering that text would lead him to new clarity and would show him how far he had truly come. Okay, Michael said, his heart racing anew, I'll do it. He picked up the phone, fingers trembling but resolute. Sarah gave him a warm smile, her eyes bright with admiration. That's it. You can do this. He opened the message, the sunlight spilling over them like a promise of fresh beginnings. The words on the screen blurred for a moment, his breath catching in his throat. Finally, he hovered over the keyboard, uncertainty fighting with anticipation, then, just as he started to type, the phone vibrated again. A new message had come through. His breath caught. It was a photo. Michael's heart tightened as he opened it, and Sarah leaned in, curiosity obvious on her face. The image brought back an avalanche of emotions, a happy moment frozen in time, and standing next to Emily was a little girl, her daughter. Michael felt everything he had just built come crashing down around him, as panic seeped in. "Michael, what is it?" Sarah pressed, seeing the shock on his face. His mind raced. He had thought he was ready for whatever Emily was going to tell him, but what did this mean for them? "Sarah, I need time," he said, voice trembling. "I don't know how to deal with this." The stakes felt higher than ever. How could he honor his past while still trying to rebuild a future with Sarah? The silence between them stretched, heavy with unspoken fears and possibilities. In that moment, he realized that once again, he was at a crossroads, uncertain of which path to take. As he looked at the photograph again, uncertainty gnawed at him. Was he ready to run towards his past, or would he risk losing what he had with Sarah? Before he could answer, his phone buzzed once again. It was another message from Emily. What could she possibly want next? His pulse quickened as he glanced over at Sarah. "Michael? What is going on? Talk to me." How was he supposed to convey the storm brewing inside him? He turned back to the screen, knowing this moment would define him. His heart pounded. Was this the moment where everything changed again? The moment of truth had arrived. Michael felt like he was on a tightrope, teetering over the abyss. He glanced at Sarah, her worried expression reflecting his own inner turmoil. What would Emily say next? He took a deep breath and swiped his finger across the screen to reveal the message. "Hey Michael, I know this is sudden, but I wanted to reach out and share something important. Can we talk?" His heart raced. What could be so important? The photo had rocked his emotions, and now this vague message sent him spiraling into a whirlwind of uncertainties. It was like a puzzle missing vital pieces. "Michael," Sarah said softly, pulling him back. "You need to answer." "I'm just not ready for this," he admitted. His voice was shaky, bordered with fear. "Not now." "Is it about the little girl?" Sarah asked, her intonation gentle yet probing. "Are you wondering if she could be yours?" The thought hit Michael with the force of a train. He hadn't even allowed himself to entertain that possibility. Created a life that could somehow intertwine with his own? His past racing back to invade his present? "No, I can't think that way. She's not mine. She's Emily's," he said, shaking his head as if he could dismiss the notion. But the seed of doubt had been planted. How could Emily have a daughter without him knowing? It was like part of his life had been rewritten while he stood still. Then why not just ask her? Sarah encouraged. "Get clarity before you dive into a sea of assumptions." He closed his eyes tightly, trying to drown out the incoming storm. It was frustrating, the way past memories threatened to blur the lines of who he was becoming. What if it changes everything? He whispered. "Change isn't always bad, Michael," Sarah replied. Her voice was soothing, a gentle anchor against the rising tide of his fears. "You'll never know unless you communicate." As much as he wanted to resist, her words soaked into him like rain on parched soil. Michael took a deep breath, summoning the courage to reply. Okay, he finally murmured, fingers hovering once again over the keyboard. He could feel his pulse in his throat. "I'll do it. I'll ask her what she wants, what this all means." With purposeful steadiness, he typed, "Yes, let us talk. What is it that's so important?" He pressed send, each beat of his heart echoing in the silence of the room. Immediately, the phone vibrated again. Michael's breath hitched as he watched the dots appear on the screen, signaling Emily was typing. Each second felt like an eternity. "Give me just a minute," he said absent-mindedly to Sarah as he tried to catch a glimpse of what lay ahead. Then the message appeared. "I need you to know I have a daughter. Her name is Lily. I'm not sure if I can do this alone. I thought of you." The tightening in his chest returned, squeezing the air from his lungs. Emily needed him? How could he possibly be involved in her life again, especially now? Michael? Sarah's voice quivered slightly, mixing concern and curiosity. What does she mean? Why does she need you? He felt raw. Undone. I don't know, Sarah. Michael could feel his entire world shifting. His past now intersected sharply with his present, blurring lines he thought would remain clear. Did Emily expect him to step in? Was that even possible? Torn between his loyalty to Sarah and the whispers of the past, he felt lost. He glanced at Sarah, her eyes filled with a mixture of affection and apprehension. Do you want to talk to her now? She asked quietly, her hand reaching for his. In that moment, Michael realized the weight of the life-changing decision before him. Lily, he murmured, saying the name for the first time and feeling imbued with an unfamiliar sense of wonder. But did he want this tangled history or the promise of a future with Sarah? The next message from Emily sent a new wave of uncertainty washing over him. What other revelations awaited? The moment felt like a precipice, and Michael wasn't sure which way to leap. Michael could barely focus on the screen as the next message from Emily loaded. His heart thudded in his chest, each beat a reminder that life had a way of throwing unexpected curveballs. Michael, I know this is overwhelming. I can't do this alone. I really need your help. His fingers trembled as he fought back a rush of emotions. Help? He whispered, glancing over at Sarah, who was watching him intently, uncertainty etched on her face. Did Emily think she could just waltz back into his life and pull on heartstrings that were still raw? She needs help, Sarah stated quietly, her voice steady, though he could sense the tension in her body. Michael met her gaze. It was open, but he could see the flicker of fear lurking just beneath the surface. What if I can't give her what she wants? What if I get pulled back into all of it? His voice was barely above a whisper, filled with dread. I can't answer for you, Sarah responded, her brow furrowed in empathy. But you can't ignore this. Your past is here, right in front of you. You need to decide what that means for you and your future. He could feel confusion gnawing at him. Not just about Emily's sudden plea but about what it all meant for Sarah. She had been his rock, the one who understood him and his struggles. The one whose eyes sparkled with pure hope, as if the world was meant to be embraced together. Hey, do you want me to leave? Sarah's question hung in the air, a painful offer that cut through the tension. I don't want to be in the way. No, you're not in the way, he insisted, desperate to hold on to her. I need to think. His phone vibrated again, jolting him back. Emily had sent another message. I know you're surprised. I didn't plan for any of this. But you were a part of my life that I held on to and I thought you'd want to meet her. I didn't want you to find out any other way, it read. Meet her? Michael repeated, his heart racing. Did she really expect him to step into this world? To meet a little girl who might carry his blood, a little girl who would inevitably change everything? What are you thinking? Sarah asked softly. I don't know, Sarah, he admitted, shaking his head. The weight of past choices pressed down on him from all sides. The unmistakable bond he once shared with Emily felt like a ghost at the back of his mind. What if she wants me to be a father? What if I don't know how? Michael, Sarah said, taking a step closer. You can still choose who you want to be in this moment. There's no right answer. Just your answer. His heart was a tempest, wrestling with the tide of memories and responsibilities. As he glanced away from the screen, he saw a reflection of himself in Sarah's eyes. He could see the glimmer of hope but also the deep concern. In that fleeting moment, he knew whatever decision he made would shape not only his life but hers as well. After a heartbeat that felt like an eternity, he typed a message back to Emily, "What do you need from me?" As he pressed send, a sense of calm washed over him, clarity amidst the swirling chaos. But then, something stirred deep inside as he awaited Emily's reply, something he couldn't quite pin down. Why was he struggling? Why did the thought of becoming a father feel both terrifying and strangely exhilarating? Almost instantly, Emily's response came. Let us talk. I want you to meet Lily. I think it might help us both understand. Michael felt his heart seize, gripped with a mixture of fear and an unfathomable curiosity. The words were magic, revealing a path yet untouched. But just as the thought of embracing that unknown flickered to life, another fear wormed its way in. What if this was too late for him? What if he'd already lost the chance to be the man Emily needed? Sarah squeezed his hand, grounding him. No matter what, we'll face it together, she whispered, but uncertainty loomed like storm clouds on the horizon, and as the messages on his phone swirled around him, he realized he stood at a crossroads. The direction he chose could weave together lives that were once intertwined or tear apart the fragile foundations he was still trying to build with Sarah. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his decision settle upon him. Did he dare to step into this new world, or was it too soon to untangle the past? What awaited him on the other side of this choice would change everything once again. Michael's heart raced as he processed Emily's words. They echoed in his mind, reverberating with dread and longing. The phone buzzed again, the screen lit up with Emily's name, stirring the memories of their shared laughter and heartache. Michael, we can meet whenever you're ready. I want to explain everything, especially about Lily, Emily wrote, her message laced with urgency. Lily, he whispered, rolling the name over his tongue like a taste he couldn't quite identify. The very idea of a child was new, unfamiliar territory. He had always chased dreams, ambitions, but a family? That felt infinitely more daunting. What are you going to do? Sarah nudged, her proximity radiating warmth and reassurance. She was the anchor in his storm, yet he felt the tug of another tide threatening to pull him away. I don't know if I'm ready for this for her, Michael replied, his voice almost breaking. I could fail her. What if I become a shadow of the father she needs? Don't think like that, Sarah urged, her eyes searching his. You won't know until you try. And whether you play a role in her life or not, that choice doesn't change who you are right now. He took hold of her hand tighter, the contact grounding him amongst the chaos. But another part of him yearned for that connection, the chance to step back into a life he thought he'd closed the door on. He looked at Sarah, at the strength she represented, and then at the advancing shadows of the past. Do you think I'm strong enough to handle this? To meet her? The question hung heavily between them. You've faced so much already, Michael. This is not just about Emily or your past. This is about the man you want to be, Sarah insisted, her gaze unwavering. You don't have to do it alone. I believe in you. His fears battled with the flicker of optimism Sarah's words ignited within him. What if this was a chance at redemption? A chance to rewrite his story? The thought sparked something deep inside that began to push away the crippling fear. After a long breath, he sighed, what if I send her a message to meet? Just talk. The admission sent a rush of adrenaline through him, a decision, a step into the unknown. Then let us do it together, Sarah smiled, a mixture of pride and support shining in her eyes. That he found himself drafting another message, the words flowing with newfound determination. Emily, let us meet. I want to hear everything. He hesitated a moment before hitting send, swallowing hard. That small leap felt monumental, the beginning of a pathway he thought was forever barred. But more significant still was the sense of community he felt as Sarah leaned closer, her presence a reminder that he was not alone. Just remember, she whispered, whatever happens, we'll take it one step at a time. Yeah, he replied, the weight of her support calming him. Still, beneath that calm lay a river of questions and anxious anticipation. Was he truly prepared for the impact of this reunion? Minutes later, a reply pinged again. Thank you, Michael. I really think this will be good for both of us and for Lily. His stomach turned at the thought of the little girl who had suddenly become a focal point in all his uncertainty. He felt an urgency to protect her, despite never having met. Intrigued and terrified, Michael realized this conversation would lead him to something unforeseen. What would it mean to step into the role of a father figure, especially when shadows of doubt lingered? What conclusion could he draw from a single meeting? As the weight of the evening settled in, Michael felt the world tilt slightly. The possibilities loomed large, tangled in risk and hope, each pulling him in a different direction. With his heart a swirling tempest, he knew that he was one message away from altered paths. Would he awaken feelings long buried, or discover the promise of a future shaped by love? Something shifted inside him, a flicker of readiness for what came next. Just as he began to feel a sense of clarity, another message popped up. "We can meet tomorrow." Is that too soon? He hesitated, a flurry of emotions racing through him. Time was ticking, and a new chapter was poised to unfold. What choices would he make when face to face with the past he thought he left behind? Michael took a deep breath, letting the weight of the day press down for just a moment. Tomorrow. It seemed impossible that just now he was contemplating a future with Sarah, building a gentle life together, and yet here he was again, grappling with his past. The past he thought he could keep at bay, the past that now had a pulse. "Michael?" Sarah's voice broke through the haze. He looked up, finding her concern etched in the lines of her brow. "It's just a lot," he admitted, trying to rein in the turmoil. "Feeling like I'm being pulled in two directions again." Her gaze softened, and she moved closer, wrapping her arms around him. The warmth of her embrace offered comfort like sunlight after stormy skies. "You've come so far. Remember? You faced your fears before. This is just another chapter." "I know," he said, the truth of her words resonating with him. "But this chapter feels different. There's a little girl involved. A life I didn't know existed. That makes it even more crucial," she said gently. "But we can be honest with each other. No more secrets." He took her hands in his, fingers intertwining like hopes and dreams, his pulse steadying. "You have been my heart's anchor, Sarah. I want to share this with you. Whatever happens, I want you with me through this." Sarah smiled, that radiant smile that had pulled him in since the beginning. "Then we're in this together. Every step." With newfound determination, he replied to Emily. "Tomorrow works. Just tell me where." He pressed send, and an unexpected calm settled over him. He glanced at Sarah, who was watching him intently. "See? You're taking charge of your life," she said, beaming with pride. But even amidst her encouragement, a knot of anxiety birthed within him. Would meeting Emily panic him? Would he be able to face the truth and reach for what he might be the father he wasn't prepared to be, yet somehow felt the pull toward, through the long evening, their previous fears and lingering doubts morphed into anticipation. The clock's ticking grew louder, the hands moving closer to the moment when he would stand face to face with his past. Michael and Sarah talked into the night, crafting plans of hope and comfort, sharing laughter that dripped with both relief and anxiety. When morning arrived, Michael felt like a piece of him was missing. He reviewed every emotion, every memory. How could he be a father when he barely learned how to accept love himself? The uncertainty gnawed at him like an itch. Under the brilliant Phoenix sun, he found himself outside the cafe where he and Emily agreed to meet. The air buzzed with possibilities, but it felt thick with the residue of his fears. He scanned the small crowd, searching for a familiar face but only finding strangers lost in their own stories. Then, suddenly, there she was. Emily stepped out, a woman transformed, yet undeniably the girl who once held his heart. Her expression was a mix of hope and trepidation. She approached, clutching a small hand, another life tethered to her own. "Michael," she said, her voice wavering slightly. "Thank you for coming." And before him stood Lily, a little girl with bright eyes that sparkled like sunlit ocean water. An echo of Michael's own features glimmered within her. His heart lurched sharply, overwhelming him with both a sense of belonging and a breathtaking fear. "Hi," he managed, kneeling down to Lily's level, delight mixed with apprehension swirling. "I'm Michael. It's nice to meet you." "Hi," she chirped brightly, her small hand reaching out, a sign of innocence and uninhibited trust. Her smile ignited something deep inside him that he hadn't expected. A blend of hope and fear. He glanced back at Emily, who was watching him with an expression that held both relief and apprehension. "I want to explain everything," she said softly. Michael felt the world spin anew. As their story unfolded, little Lily played on the edges, blissfully unaware of the complex threads weaving them together. The conversation warmed from uncertainty to hope, much like the sun spilling golden rays through the cafe windows. With each word shared, he understood more about what brought them here. How love had veered paths, yet it led them back together. They were all products of their experiences, yet bound more significantly to each other now. Hours flew by like soft whispers, with laughter and light buffering against the weight of their unshared pasts. The feelings stirred within Michael shifted his notion of family. As they embraced vulnerability with each other, he recognized the echoes of healing around him. When it was time to leave, Michael turned to Emily, an understanding existent now that hadn't been there before. "I can't promise to be perfect, or even know what you need," but he hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I want to try. For you, and for her." Emily's eyes glistened, pride reflecting in the depths of her gaze. "All I ask is the chance to figure it out together." "I'd like that," he said as warmth spread through him. And as they each took a step forward, hand in hand, Lily tucked close between them, Michael felt the moment crystallize into something lasting. A pivot point, where the weight of fear could ease, where love could flourish anew. When he walked away later, Sarah waiting outside with a radiant smile, Michael felt like he was carrying the sun. It wasn't an easy road ahead, but a future brimmed with potential, and he was ready to embrace it. Together, they could face anything. Now is the time. You need to subscribe now to stay updated on these inspiring transformations. Hit that like button, seriously, your support fuels this journey. I want to hear from you. Comment below your thoughts. How do you feel about this ending? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the beauty in second chances. Let us build our community stronger, together.